What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Williams, and we've been talking about solving quadratic equations. And you got three ways to solve them. You can solve them by factoring, completing the square, or using the quadratic formula. So today we're going to be factoring. And in this problem, it says a rectangular garden has dimensions of x plus 3 feet and x plus 10 feet. If the area of the garden is 60 feet, what are the length and width of the garden? So I'm very visual. It says that we have a rectangular garden. So let me go ahead and draw my rectangle. I'll do it like that. It's a nice looking rectangle. And it says the dimensions are x plus 3 and x plus 10. So that means that the one of these represents the length and the other represents the length. So let's just go ahead and label that like there. We'll put x plus 3 here, and then we'll put x plus 10 over there. Now, it also says that the area of the garden is 60 feet. That tells me that when I multiply the length times the width, I'm going to get 60 feet squared, right? So this is the information that I'm given so far. And I already know that this represents my length and this represents my width. So when I multiply the length times the width, I get 60. How did I know that? Because area of a rectangle is length times width, okay? So we're getting ready to put our equation together now so we can solve it. So let's go here. First thing I know, I need to multiply x plus 3 times x plus 10. And you got two ways to do that. You can multiply it using the FOIL method or the box method. So I'll kind of hurry through both ways. So here using the box method, we got x squared here because we did x times x. And then we're going to come here and do x times 3, 3x, 10 times x, 10x, 10 times 3, 30. We put our equation together. We've got x squared plus, well, we can go ahead and add this. 10x and 13x, I'm sorry, 10x and 3x are like terms. Add that plus the 30. There we go. Well, that should say 30. 3, are you going to act up? 3, 0. So that looks a little weird, but that's it. X squared plus 13x plus 30. Now, let's get ready to solve it. So x squared plus 13x plus 30, we know that it equals 60. Remember, we saw that in the very beginning. It tells us that our area is 60 feet. So when I multiply the length and the width, I should get 60. That's given. I didn't have to solve that. It just gave me that. So now we are ready to solve this. We're going to factor it. But first, we need this side to equal 0. We need that to equal 0. So if it doesn't equal 0, we need to make it equal 0. We can do that easily by subtracting 60 on both sides, like this. Draw that. And over here on the left side, we've got x squared plus 13x. And here we've got 30 minus 60, which gives me negative 30. This over here now is 0. Couple of things. When you subtract 60 on both sides, you can only combine it with its like term. And your only like term here is 30 and 60. You can't put the 60 under the 13 and subtract it because the 13 has an x. So now here we go. We've got x squared plus 13x minus 30 equals 0. Now we are ready to factor it. So let's go ahead and put our x in here. Now we need factors of 30. Negative 30. Factors of negative 30 that add up to 13. Well, we got a couple of ways we can make 30. Let's see if I can type it out real quick. We can do 30 and 1. You can do, let's make that negative 1. And you can do 15 and 2. You can do 6 and 5. And you can do 10 and 3. I think that's all of them for the most part. So now, all of these are going to give me 30. Well, when I add them together, which one is going to give me 13? Well, 30 and 1, there's no, even if 30 was negative, there's no way I can get 13. 15 and 2, I might can get 13 if I subtract it. So maybe if I make this 2 negative, I think I can get 13. So there we, and then 6 and 5, that's going to give me 11, or if I subtract it, it'll give me 1. If I get this, this will give me 13 and 30. So I can either use 15 and negative 2 or 10 and negative and 10 and 3. So let's see which one is going to work. Well, 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. And if I add them, if I add them 15 and negative 2, that's going to give me 13. Well, if I make this negative, that's going to give me negative 7 when, I'm sorry, positive 7 when I add them. And even if I do this, make the 10 negative, that's going to give me 7. So I can't use this. The only one that I can use is 15 and negative 2. So I'm going to put the 15 here and the negative 2 there. Positive 15 and negative 2. And again, these are the only two that meet both criteria. 15 and negative 2. When you multiply them, you get negative 30. And when you add them, you get positive 13. So there are the numbers from your equation right there. Now we can solve it. So let's go ahead and break it apart. You got x plus 15 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. This is basically called the zero product property, which basically means if you multiplying two things and the product is 0, then one of these has to equal 0. But the thing is, we don't know which one equals 0, so we make them both equal 0 and just explore the two answers. All right. So here you would subtract 15 on both sides. That's not hard. Y'all know that. That's going to be negative 15. Here you would add 2 to both sides. And here you got x equals 2. So there you go. Whoa, that's a funny looking 2. 2. All right, my 2 thing is active. 2. All right, it's about as best as I can get it. So here we have two answers. X equals negative 15 and x equals 2. So we have solved for x. But now we need to still answer the question, what are the length and width of the garden? So now we got to use a little bit of common sense, okay? We got two answers for x. We said x was negative 15 and x is 2. Well, we can't use both answers. We can only use one of them. Since we're talking about length and width, we're not going to use negatives. That doesn't make sense. So we're only going to use, I'll cross that out. We're only going to use 2 because it doesn't make sense to use a negative. So now that I know that x equals 2, I can scratch that out and put in a 2. And that's going to be 5. Well, I guess I'll do it here. If I scratch out this 2, scratch out the x, put a 2, that means this equals 5. And I scratch out that x and put another 2, that means this side equals 12 feet. Now, I've solved it. I've got my length is 5 feet and my width is 12 feet. How can I know I did that right? Well, because the area should be 60. So if I check it and do 12 times 5, I get 60. 12 times 5, times 5 equals 60. So we have solved it. We are done. I know what x is, and I had to factor to solve it. X equals 2. But that's not my answer. My answer is what are the length and width of the garden? So I have to answer the question. Well, the length and width are 5 and 12. So I can just go back over this really quickly. So first thing we did, we took the dimensions. Let me just clear all of this. We took the dimensions, x plus 3 and x plus 10. We multiplied them like this. We got this expression right here. We know that the area is supposed to be 60 because it told us that. So we set up this problem. X squared plus 13x plus 30 equals 60. We don't want it to equal 60 because we can't solve. So we set it equal to 0 by subtracting. And then we factor it. 15 and negative 2 are the two factors. And then we just broke them apart and solved. That's how we got x. Then we took our answer from x, plugged it back into the expression, and we were able to answer the question. So this is how you do it. This is the type of questions that we need to be able to answer, real life applications.